Okay, so this is question 12 on the foundation paper and question 8 on the higher paper. So here we have a question where it says not economical to connect the houses to the national grid. So give one reason why. Obviously, the cost of installation is much higher than the return charges for usage. Another one is it's a remote area, so they're not going to use that much electricity, and that so the amount of usage is low, but the charges for in getting the electricity to that place, the installation cost will be significantly high. Other accepted answers are high cost of long cables, which we've just discussed, high cost of installing overhead power lines, underground cables, etc., and the amount of electricity required is low. So we mentioned all of those points. The next part is you've got a wind power station and a hydroelectric power station, which cost 20,000 and 50,000 to buy and install. The average power output from the wind turbine is 10 kilowatts. That gives you an idea that the power sometimes is higher, sometimes is slightly lower. The hydroelectric generator will produce a constant power of 8 kilowatts. Okay, so it's relatively reliable. Now, we will look at the question. It says compare the advantages and disadvantages of the two methods of generating electricity. So we're going to discuss advantages and disadvantages of wind, advantages and disadvantages of hydro, and see if there are any similarities between the two as well. So they might have the same advantage and they might have a similar disadvantage. So let's have a look. So one thing that stands out is that the installation cost for wind turbine is greater. Okay, so 50,000 divided by 20,000, that's two and a half. So wind turbine costs two and a half times more than a hydroelectric power station to buy and install. That's a mark there. The average power of the wind turbine is higher than the power generated by the hydroelectric. So comparing the powers picks you up another mark. Stating that that's the power and stating that that's the power is not. We need to have a comparison. So, however, this means that the power output fluctuates. So we know now we talk generally about wind power. We know that because we're talking about average, the output power is changing. Why? Is because we know that it's not always windy. Okay, so the wind speed could be variable. Okay, so sometimes the wind speed is high, sometimes there is no wind. So the power changes based on the weather and therefore is less reliable. So this is a third point that we can mention that gives us a third possible mark. So the hydroelectric power is more reliable as the power output is constant. So this is your fourth mark. So we look at the hydroelectric power. It says that it is a constant power. Okay, so it's continuously giving you the same power output all the time. So that tells you that it's a reliable source of power. And we've talked about the cost. So equally, you could say it's cheaper to buy and install, but that's not going to give you an extra mark considering you've already compared the cost before. We can also say that both hydro and wind are renewable energy resources. And we can also say that hydropower stations destroy habitats when installed. So that's a disadvantage. The advantage was that they are both renewable sources. And we know that wind power stations also cause visual pollution because they stick out like a sore thumb. So all of these points carry marks. Now, if you want to look at additional points, have a look at the mark scheme. There will be some additional points that you could mention that will pick you up marks as well. But here, what we've discussed is advantages and disadvantages of wind, advantages and disadvantages of hydro, and then comparing the both of them in terms of they might have similar advantages or disadvantages, and we can discuss those as well.